Hello, 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 hello. Here I am, doing my live. Hello out there. I do this live every Tuesday, and I normally do it with my staff at Kinetics, but today I am out of the office, out of the studio, and I took myself on a little staycation. So I decided I worked really hard today. So I checked myself into one of my favorite hotels and I'm just relaxing. It was I should say this first. Happy Harriet Tubman Day. Today is March 10th and the birth date of Harriet Tubman, at least, birthday of Harriet Tubman. And so today was also a presentation for the Tubman journey at Highland Park High School. And I won't be on here long, but I did want to just talk with you all a little bit about the day. So it started for me at somewhere around, at the high school, somewhere around 7:30. Selena and I went over, and Selena did the recording for the Tubman Journey presentation. So what it was is I was at the high school, and hey Molly, hey Amber, hey Suzette, hey Levy, how are you guys? Good to see you. Dina's here. Hey, how are you? So I was invited to the high school to do a presentation. So we're talking ninth grade through 12th grade. And I was supposed to do a couple things. Full day, so 7:50 at the start of school to 2:30. 9:30 to 10 was a breakout session. I'm sorry, 9 to 10 was the assembly, and then all the rest of the day was breakout sessions. So they started me with the chorus, and the chorus as a first period, and they sang beautifully, but I also got a chance to sing a bunch of songs from my family, so that was really cool. Then I went into the assembly, and I got a chance to show clips from the documentary. So the documentary, A Walk in Her Shoes, producing that, and I got a chance to show the students clips from that. So because of timing, so the documentary is 90 minutes, but because of timing, I could only show small amounts. So I showed 3 clips. They were about 15 minutes in time span. And then I also talked about the journey. I spoke about the journey. And so that was good. But there were 400 students in the assembly. And so, of course, there were people on the balconies and there were people at the bottom. And so I could interact with the people that were closest to me. But the people who were far away, that interaction was difficult. The best part, hands down, about today's presentations were the breakout sessions. They had me, hey, Hamidullah, that's my brother. Whoop, whoop. They had me in the school library. And students, the classes came in one by one. So history was there, the history classes were there, and English classes. And so I had somewhere around 15 to 25 students for each session. And it was great because I could interact with them. So one of the questions that I asked the students, and these are, of course, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th graders, I asked about what they thought about the presentation. I asked what they thought about Harriet Tubman, what they thought about slavery as a system, what they thought about the enslaved. And even the chatty students were very attentive. And they gave me their honest opinion. And some people, of course, were quiet, but there was a general sort of sentiment that slavery was bad, but somehow it was like the fault of the enslaved, or somehow it wasn't the people who were doing the enslaving, but it was the enslaved that they looked negatively at. So I asked what they thought, and they told me they thought the enslaved were stupid, uneducated, hopeless, all kinds of things. And I wasn't surprised, of course. And I actually loved the fact that they were honest, because then we could have an honest conversation about what was really happening with people. So I started telling them stories about Harriet Tubman, but I also started asking them questions about themselves. And one thing I asked was, do you ever feel like you're without motivation? And most of them said yes. Do you ever feel like there's a situation that you're uncertain of? And most of them said yes. Do you ever feel hopeless, was a question that I asked. And they said yes. And so then I turned it around and I asked them, do you think that there was a time that Harriet Tubman or other people who were enslaved also felt hopeless? They said yes. I said, do you think Harriet Tubman or other enslaved people in being brought over here, going through the Middle Passage, that they were low in motivation? They said yes. And so then I asked, what is the difference? What do they feel is the difference between themselves and their emotions as a human being and their human experiences? How do they think they were alike or similar to Harriet Tubman? And for the most part, they thought that they were similar. And I said, do you think it's interesting that when we think about the enslaved, that we don't think about them as being human beings? And they all sat silently. And then they said, yes. So what was remarkable about that is that I was able to help them shift their paradigm, or have a, here they were thinking that Harriet Tubman and even other people were different than, had different emotions than themselves. And so these were human beings. They led lives. They fell in love. They, were fearful and scared. They enjoyed their family. Like all the things that we feel, they felt. And so it was remarkable to see them thinking about what I was saying, processing it, and then dialoguing about it. And I'm thinking, like, this is just what we need. We need students thinking. We need students not only thinking, but sharing with each other about their feelings, about the world, about themselves, and then taking the next step to do something to think differently. I brought up the fact that they would one day be voters and how they're responsible for not repeating the past. Hey, Audrey, what's going on? Hey, Elizabeth. Hey, Sparky, what's up? So if you're just coming on, I was just talking about the presentation that I did at the Highland Park High School. Principal over there is Mr. Lassiter. He came up to me at the end of the day and he said, I just want to let you know how much I really appreciated you coming in today. Thank you for that heart. Because several students have come up to me and they've said, thank you, Mr. Lassiter, for bringing Miss Lundy in to talk with us. And I thought, like, wow, why aren't we doing more of that? I've been watching Nikki Giovanni. You guys know Nikki Giovanni, poet, activist. If you don't, Google her. She's amazing. And she was talking at Stanford or somewhere, and she was saying how she thought that old people should go into kindergarten classrooms and elementary school classrooms and middle school classrooms to share in what it means to be old, but also just talk about life. I don't think we do enough of that, sharing from one generation to the other. So it was great. It was great. I probably saw something like, I don't know, 6 or so classes, maybe more. Felt like more. Hey, Faye, Dion's here. And I know. So I had lunch with a group of students called A Seat at the Table. And I was curious about the name. So I asked, where the name came from. And they said, Mr. Lassiter told me that there's a poem, and I don't know it, or a short story by Langston Hughes called A Seat at the Table. And so they named their group A Seat at the Table. And it gave students of color an opportunity to come together and talk about things that are relevant to them. And I thought that was really, really, really wonderful that they had that outlet. But I'm also conscious that, and I learned this in completing the journey. I don't know if I ever told you all this, but I met Kate Clifford Larson, and she's the author of the book Bound for the Promised Land. And when I met her, I was initially reluctant to read her book because I wanted to hear the story of Harriet Tubman from another Black woman, right? Like, I'm a Black woman, so I was like, okay, let's see what the perspective is. But I was encouraged by Angela Crenshaw to read her book. And so I did. And it was great. It was wonderful. I've since, been reading many books by many different authors of many different nationalities about Harriet Tubman. But what was wonderful about it is that Harriet Tubman's story is the story of American people. It's the story of America. So when you try to have a conversation about Harriet Tubman by herself, well, then you only gain one perspective. You don't see how she has changed history for all Americans. And so I really appreciated having the students from A Seat at the Table to be able to dialogue with them. But I wished that there were other student organizations that would have been there to talk, because how we think about the world, how we interact is quite diverse, right? So we needed Kate as a white woman to tell the story, so that the people that she would associate with will know the story, because maybe they won't listen to me. And I need to be able to tell the story. And I'm talking about the story of Harriet Tubman, particularly, since that's the journey I'm on. I need to be able to tell the story. And maybe there are some people who would not listen to Kate. But between the two of us and all the people that we tell, well, then everybody's getting the story, right? And it's the story. It's an American history story. And so because of that, we can all gain a better appreciation and a better respect for Harriet Tubman and others who fought for freedoms and fought for equality. And so I think we just need to do a better job of talking and sharing and being open and honest about who we are and what our perspectives are, because that's the only place that we can actually do some healing and maybe ask some painful questions and bring up some painful topics. So it was great. It was great. I would say the biggest obstacle in front of us is more about making sure that the generations forward can appreciate what happened in the past. So I asked one young man, whether or not he thought the stories of Harriet Tubman were relevant. And he spoke less about racial divides and more just about, it just seems so long ago, and it just doesn't affect me on my daily basis or in my daily life. And so my overarching message to Yeah, it was really great, Audrey. You know what? My overarching message was that people need to take action. And so you can take action in your lives like a Harriet Tubman or like another hero or heroine of yours, right? And so taking action means like you could hone in on your own purpose, and that's like relevant to everybody. You can become a value, more value in your family, and that's relevant to everybody. Family was really important to Harriet Tubman. And it's the reason why she went back many times over to get her family and friends, because she thought, well, I'm free, they should be free also. We could all agree that we all have a social responsibility, so the students could understand that. We could all agree that everybody should be treated equally. They understood that. And we could all agree that health and wellness and building strength and those kinds of things are important, like physical strength. So I was able to reach that student by just shining a light on the fact that, yeah, maybe Harriet Tubman did live a long time ago. That's okay, but she fought for specific things, and here are the things she fought for. Are those things important to you? And he said, yes, those things are important to me. And so then he could appreciate her story much, much more because they were relevant to his own life. So I think that we as adults, we have a responsibility not only to tell the stories, but to make the stories tangible and usable for our young people. Otherwise, they're disconnected. They live in a different time, even in comparison to, us. If you were born in the 80s or 90s, it's a different world. And so to make somebody's story like Harriet Tubman's story relevant, you really do have to make it accessible to them. So it was a great day. It was a great day. We've got a lot of work to do. A couple weeks ago, I did a talk at Bartle Elementary School. So we're talking second, third, and fourth graders. And they were completely just engrossed in the conversation and interested in asking questions. And they couldn't understand some of the horrific aspects of slavery. I did a bunch of storytelling, but also their teachers had prepped them. And hey, Alicia, Tammy's here. Hey, Finn. Carolina? I think so. How are you? I was just talking about the fact that I did the Tubman Journey presentation today at the Highland Park High School, and I was well received by the 9th through 12th graders. They were excited. They were attentive. They were engaging with me, and even the ones who were chatty normally or uninterested in being in the classroom, they were amazing. They were really, really amazing. And then a couple weeks ago, I was at Bartle Elementary School in Highland Park, and those second graders were taken back and really just wanting to, they felt empathy. I could feel the empathy from them. And they couldn't understand why Harriet Tubman would be whipped and beaten because, she took a cube of sugar, or why she had been beaten because she didn't dust the table right. That was like a foreign concept to them. And so it's great. So it's great. Coming up this Thursday, I'm going to be at at a school called Cunningham Academy, and that's my brother's school in Vineland. And so I'm really looking forward to that. I'll do an assembly. I won't have an opportunity to do breakout sessions, but I will have an opportunity to engage with the students. And here's what I'm 100% sure of. Every time we tell a story about the past and we make it tangible for our young people and we give them the moral of the story, well, then we equip them with the tools to not repeat the past. And if I can tell them the story and you can tell them the story, and then the domino effect happens, well, then what we have politically happening right now won't happen, right? And I don't have to go into that, but you all know what I'm talking about. We need a different world. We need a new perspective. And so if we want that, then we have to raise the children that are going to do that. After I finish at Cunningham Academy, I'm going to be at Linwood Middle School in North Brunswick, which I'm really excited about. And I'll be at Rutgers on talking to it won't be at the Paul Robeson Cultural Center, but I am working with the Paul Robeson Cultural Center and two student organizations. So that's Scarlet, NAACP, and also the Black National Congress. They're really excited to bring me in on the 30th. And then on the 31st, I'll be at Monmouth University. So this thing is wonderful. Hey, Brenda. Hey, Tori. Hey, Shani. They definitely, okay, so Brenda said they're sponges. They are totally sponges, and I think we don't give them enough credit, right? These are going to be our politicians, our doctors, our leaders. We need to talk to them about the things that matter. If we're quiet or we dance around the subject, well, then we can't expect for them to create a better world if we're not telling them the truth. And so in order for us to tell them the truth, though, we've got to know the truth. So if you, and I'm talking about Harriet Tubman, but we can use this conversation and talk about anything. You need to put yourself there. You need to be a reader. You need to encourage your young people to read. You actually need to go to the places, step on the soil, smell the air, feel the energy. It's the thing that really shifted me, touched me about the Tubman journey. Is that I wasn't just reading the words in a book. I could feel what was happening. I could interact with people. Freedom Seeker descendants, the Tubman family, like that was amazing. And so it's changed me. And so we need our young people to have those experiences so that they become more real and so that they feel responsible for creating a better world. That's our job. And if we don't do that, well, then shame on us. That's our job. And even if you don't have your own biological children, you're responsible for telling another child. I spoke to the kids today about their social responsibility, and I gave them a very tangible tool. I had said, if you see somebody, you're responsible for your community, is the bottom line. If you see somebody drop trash on the floor, do you say nothing? Whose responsibility is it? Nobody should be looking away. When people throw trash on the ground, then, it messes it up. It messes up the scenery for everyone. So it's everybody's job to either pick the trash up or say something about the person who's littering. So very small example, right? Because these are young people and they're thinking, I'm not going to do this big thing because I'm young. Well, it doesn't have to be this big thing. It could just be you being kind, right? Definitely social responsibility. It could be you doing what your mother asked you to do, or could be you treating the next person fairly. So take action was the overarching message. And I got a bunch of talks coming up, and I'm hoping that this will be a domino. I'll have a domino effect and really be able to create a Take Tubman action movement. That's what I'm going for. So we're moving without hesitation. We are moving with a purpose. We are moving with energy and drive. And if you don't have it yourself, we're going to go seek it out in the people who were here before us, who made things happen. We have a social responsibility. So it's good. It's really good. This is a powerful time that we're living in. And yes, absolutely. Take Tubman action. Thank you, Finn, for that. I can't stress it enough. She did not hesitate, and neither should we. So I just wanted to be on with you today and to share a bit about that. Of course, there's always more that we could all do, I could do, but I'm trying to put one foot in front of the next every day, so that I make a powerful impact. And I'm asking for you all to do the same thing. So hopefully we have a deal. Anyway, I'm thoroughly exhausted, and I am going to try to relax for the rest of the evening. Tori, what'd you say? I would love to discuss this offline. Absolutely. I'll send you a message. And anybody else who thinks that it would be valuable for me to come into their schools or motivate their adults, Mother Tubman has given me some energy. And whether I want to or not, here I am speaking the words, giving the energy to you, because it's the right thing to do, and I'm doing it. So message me if you think this might be of interest to your students or your adults or some organization, because we've got work to do. All right, peace out, everybody.